The Golden Age of tabletop role-playing games. GameMasters here, and I've seen several videos out there addressing this supposed death of the Golden Age of TTRPGs, so I figured I'd make one as well. Over on Facebook, an individual by the name of Ben Riggs claims that the Golden Age of TTRPGs is dead, that we are watching a bright and special time in the TTRPG industry pass away before our eyes. The rest of his post goes on to explain that the Golden Age began around the start of the 2010s, and that it's because of shows like Stranger Things and live plays like Critical Role that gave rise to this Golden Age. But that because of the D&D OGL from last year, that caused many content creators to branch out on their own. Ones that used to create third-party content specifically for D&D are now creating their own tabletop role-playing games, and that is what is ultimately killing this Golden Age of the tabletop role-playing industry. I don't agree with that sentiment. The term Golden Age is defined as the period when a specified art, skill, or activity is at its peak. Arguably, Dungeons & Dragons saw its Golden Age back in the late 1970s to the late 1980s. It was new, people flocked to it, the media had its go at it with the whole satanic scare, yet it endured and thrived. It made a cultural impact and really transcended its niche into becoming a realized viable product, both in terms of business for TSR, but also in terms of groups of people interacting with D&D at the center. We saw D&D emerge from basements and leap to television commercials. It was more than a hobby, and legendary artists like Larry Elmore and Jeff Easley played a significant part in shaping the visual identity of the game, which contributed to its allure. A moment ago, I mentioned that the media tried to vilify it by claiming that it was a bridge to Satanism, and all of that really did was bolster its popularity. Then we started to see a creative boom in the mid to late 1980s in which we saw new supplements for Dungeons & Dragons, settings like Greyhawk, settings like Forgotten Realms, and that continued to build upon the game's success. But too, we saw new tabletop role-playing games emerge, and it is at this point that we saw the true Golden Age of D&D start to wane. But keep this time period in mind, the late 1980s to the mid-1990s, and we're going to return to that in a moment. While alternatives to Dungeons & Dragons have been around for a good number of years, Traveller, for example, had been out since 1977. RuneQuest came out in the 1978, kind of the late 70s. Even Palladium Books was publishing books in the early 1980s, but it was the late 1980s that really saw an ushering in of new tabletop role-playing game options. Systems like GURPS, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, West End Games Star Wars, Seventh Sea. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But many would claim that this era was the true decline of D&D's Golden Age and the birth of the Golden Age for tabletop role-playing games. That all sets up the historical context. But before I expand into my finer point and why I disagree completely with Ben's sentiment, I first need to thank these golden supporters. Their contributions to this channel have made it so that I don't need to take on a sponsored ad for this video, and I cannot thank them enough. If you'd like to contribute to the channel by becoming a Patreon or YouTube member, I'll leave links down in the contents or down in the description below. And of course, I'll add your name to this ever-growing list. Ben cites that we are currently seeing the death of the Golden Age of tabletop role-playing games. A moment ago, I tasked you with keeping a specific time period in mind, the late 1980s to the mid-1990s. This is the time period in which a large variety of other TTRPGs started to emerge. Naturally, when selections are broadened, the core product, in this case Dungeons & Dragons, is going to find itself in a decline. People want to check out what's new, but moreover, these new systems were a success by sheer virtue that they had not really ever existed before. So people wanted to check out the new game. Now, I don't think that we can tie ourselves to something as simple as a term as Golden Age. And I don't think that D&D died back in the mid-1990s. Nor do I think that it is suffering a death today. Nor do I think that tabletop role-playing games in general are seeing any form of death today. I see options, yes. I see that people are broadening their selections, yes. I'll eat tacos for dinner tonight. Tomorrow night I'll eat a pizza. That doesn't mean that the Golden Age of tacos just died. It just means that I'm partaking of a different taste. Put another way, I'll watch some Supernatural over the next few weekends. And then on February 24th, I'll watch some Twin Peaks and eat some cherry pie. And that doesn't mean that the Golden Age of Supernatural just died. It just means that I'm partaking of a different show to watch. I don't see Ben's argument as being valid, and I'd argue that his use of the term Golden Age is questionable to begin with. As mentioned, Golden Age is defined as the period when a specified art, skill, or activity is at its peak. Nah. If anything, I'd say the hobby sees ebbs and flows. I dare hesitate to use the term fad, but it's like bell-bottoms or parachute pants. Some people wear them all the time until everyone does, and then that fades out, leaving the ones that really like them to wear them until they become popular again. That's really what we should be discussing, the golden age of parachute pants. But I digress. We said this at the top of the video, but Ben mentions it that this is all because the OGL issue from last year, that creators that made content for D&D got fed up and decided to make their own systems. Coldwell Press, MCDM, and a long list of others. And yes, that is true, but that is a far cry from the death of the tabletop role-playing industry. If anything, it's pushing new life into what we play. It's expanding us and growing us beyond this term of Golden Age. More people than ever right now are playing role-playing games. We are so far from seeing a decline, a death of the game. Ben closes his statement with, "It has been a grand era to be a gamer, one which we have been fortunate to live through." Fortunate to live through? Come on, we're still living through it. Role-playing games are gathering steam. We're seeing more and more options, greater access to them, more opportunities to play them, not only at our own table, but with friends in person, but also virtually, across oceans. We can gather with other players on different continents and play together, thanks to the internet. No, it's definitely more accessible. We are not seeing any form of death of a golden age of tabletop role-playing games. Not by a long shot. The only way that it will die is if the individual playing it ceases to play. And perhaps that's what Ben means. Perhaps he himself is done playing, so for him it's dead. For me, for the players at my table, and for the millions of others out there, the dice are going to continue to roll, the adventures are going to continue to unfold, and the side quests are going to continue to keep on side questing. And I can promise you that for as long as we need an outlet for our imagination, we will continue to play. Normally, I would give you a call to action. I ask some question pertaining to what you just watched and ask you to comment below. But in this, I really don't have any questions. I'm confident that we are not seeing anything role-playing here, seeing its head anywhere near the gallows. I'm confident that the TTRPG industry isn't going to die anytime soon. I hope that you enjoyed the video. And until next our paths cross, may you enjoy playing your game that is very much alive and well.
And that was all in one take.